Hello and welcome to the Big Walkthrough Wildlife Edition. My name is Richard. I am the Product Engagement Specialist here in the UK. And today we've got a really exciting show for you because we have Espen talking about British wildlife photography. Just to give you an idea, there was a few technical issues the other day. So if you are joining us, then apologies for that. But thank you for being with us again if you are. So to give you an idea, if you haven't seen one of these shows before, we talk about a specific type and genre of photography through the show. We'll show you all the equipment that Espen uses and some of the lenses we have in general that will do the job. We'll talk about kind of settings and techniques, and we'll kind of then go through Espen's top images of 2025. And hopefully you guys will have a great understanding then of everything that's going to happen. So we will take questions throughout the show as well. So please get your questions in. We also have a dedicated question time right at the end as well. So make sure you kind of keep on throwing your questions into us. So let's bring the slide presentation up for you. And let's kind of move into our poll. So the poll today, we just want to know, are you an OM user? Are you into wildlife photography? And yeah, we want to know kind of where you guys are from as well. So let us know. We'll try and say hello to however many people we can as we go through the show today. So yeah, let's just, we'll crack on and see what happens. So today we're joined by Espen, sorry. He's a very passionate and very talented wildlife and conservation photographer. He's also a OM ambassador with us. So let's bring him on. Hello. Espen, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you, Richard?
I am good, thank you. Thanks for asking. So how has 26 been treating you?
It's been amazing so far. Yeah, just did a lot of workshops and that in Scotland early on. Obviously, I got to go to Namibia with OM System, which was incredible. And
Yep.
for the last 2 months or so, I've been traveling as well. I've been to Borneo for a month, and now I'm in Australia. So yeah,
Wow.
it's been a fun year.
Lots of moving around. So how long are you in Australia for now?
I'll be here for a couple of months, then I'll go traveling for a bit, and I might come back after that. So I probably won't be back in the UK until 2027, actually. So yeah, I'm away for a bit.
Okay. Taking the whole year away from the UK. That's fine.
Yeah.
And how's the photography been over there so far?
Incredible. I walk outside the door and there's the most colorful birds you can imagine, like rainbow lorikeets, these laughing kookaburras, and I got kangaroos in the field across from where I stay. Saw a koala in a tree the other day. So it's amazing here. Absolutely amazing. Love it.
That's really cool to have that amount of different type of wildlife just on your doorstep as you walk out. That's pretty cool.
Everything is new to me as well, so it's brilliant.
I bet the camera just doesn't leave like the house very, like, it probably leaves every day, but like you don't get very far, right?
No. It's basically, I mean, it sits ready to go on my camera bag by the door, just ready to go at any moment. So yeah.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So for people that don't know you in particularly well, can you give us a little bit of an insight to kind of how you started in photography and kind of how that journey has gone for you?
Yeah, I mean, so many years ago when I didn't know what I wanted to do, I remember reading a book called Last Chance to See by Douglas Adams, where they go traveling. He goes with Mark Corberdine, a zoologist, and they go traveling to basically see some of the last animals that are believed to maybe go extinct quite soon. And that book really hit me, and I kind of that made me go back to school. I went to study zoology, and that's how I moved to Scotland to kind of dive deeper into these subjects. Really wanted to work within conservation, and after studying, I did a master's afterwards, and we went to South Africa. And I remember down there, we did a research project where we were working with a team that were kind of trapping large African mammals, and they were translocating them to other places. And on one occasion, I was lying on the back of this truck, and they had basically had almost like a shopping list and a helicopter. They were going out to kind of trap all these impala animals, these antelopes. And they had a big funnel kind of shaped 100 meters out, going out with curtains, where they would try and chase with the helicopter all these animals coming in towards the truck. Sometimes we'd be out there behind curtains, so that when the helicopter chased animals past a certain point, it would sound a horn, and we would run across with curtains to get them closer and closer to this truck. And on one occasion, I was actually on top of the truck with a camera that I had just my first DSLR camera. And I remember not really knowing that much. And I didn't really know how to have a fast enough shutter speed to freeze the action or anything like that. But I got a very lucky image where the impala was kind of coming towards me. The male impala jumped out front. He was the alpha male. And then the whole harem with females and young ones just behind. Dust was coming about, and there was one of these savanna trees in the background that kind of framed the whole thing together. And I remember just looking at the back of the camera towards the end, standing on that truck, and just like, wow, I nailed it. And I did or anything like that, but that really set the bug for photography. And then having worked since then as an ecologist in Scotland, but my camera was always with me. And gradually, I just realized that using the camera, storytelling, videos was more how I wanted to proceed with wildlife and try and merge those two together.
Makes sense. So, and obviously that journey has now got you all the way to Australia, right? So what do you think the future is for you then? What we're going to see in the rest of 2026, 2027 from you?
Well, I'm hoping to put on some more workshops. I am working to, when I come back in 2027, to have set up quite a few ones in various places in Scotland. So there'll be a Tyree one for otters and Lunga for puffins. And I just spent a month in Borneo, as I said. So I'm hoping to set up a workshop there as well, which would be a very kind of variety of mammals, nighttime photography, and birds. So that would be kind of like the workshop part. And for now, I'm really getting back into videos and trying to make more slightly longer form videos on YouTube. Like I'm editing one from Namibia just now, and it's looking like it's going to be half an hour long or something like that. It was just such a great adventure. So I'm hoping to do a bit more adventures and film it along the way to share on social media and YouTube.
Yeah. So for anyone who hasn't watched our OM Talks live show about Namibia, can you just kind of give us a snippet of what the experience was out there, just so to give people an idea?
I mean, it was absolutely incredible. We came down to Namibia, and so I was with fellow Ambassador Marchin, Hannah and Emily, the YouTube creators, and a couple who won the competition. And we got to do a self-drive with Land Rover Defenders. So for 6 days, we had these amazing Defenders and drove through to some of the incredible places. Okanjima Nature Reserve, where we got close-up views of leopards and 2 cubs. I mean, they were literally like reach out and touch, which you obviously don't want to do, but they were very close to the vehicle. And then camping out under the stars in Spitzkoppe Mountains. It was just an unbelievable experience.
Yeah, I can imagine that it was pretty incredible, actually. How long was the trip for? I can't remember.
6 days.
6 days. Yeah. Okay. And and how many images did you take in the end of it? I'm curious.
See, that's always like, obviously, it's going to be thousands. We're not going to lie. But as soon as I put an SD card in my computer, I try to cull about 80% of them. So I don't come home with, I might come home with thousands, but it goes down fairly quickly. I'm not that good to delete almost all of them, but yeah, I'll probably have a couple of thousand left. But I took many more.
Brilliant. And that's amazing. Well, I can't wait to see. I've seen a few. I can't wait to see a few more at some point soon as well. Let's just say hello to a few people just before we get started. Then, so we got Kath in Cambridge. We've got Derek in Dorset. Hello to everyone. So nice place of the world, Dorset. I love it. Oh, we've got a bit of Northern Ireland as well, and Connecticut.
All over.
So, how is the heat in the UK? It's actually not too bad, but we are expecting a lot more heat over the weekend and probably into next week. So, what's the weather like in Australia, Espen?
It's been pouring down rain. It's it's not what I imagined Australia to be. But it's the amazing thing though is they actually have had so many floods, and we're in a couple of weeks we're going to a place called Lake Eyre, and I didn't know about this, but it's a massive salt lake like in the middle of Australia, which only has water like once every decade or 15 years. So it's going to be incredible. And at that point, wildlife just flourishes. You know, there's stuff lying within the salt marsh, and the water comes, everything just blooms, and there are going to be loads of birds and all sorts of wildlife attracted. So I'm very excited, but I'm not getting the heat you guys are. I'm actually a little bit chilly right now.
So I think America is the one today and over probably the next few days that's going to really get a lot of heat. But we've also got Sacramento, Canary Islands as well. There's people from all over the world. It's great to see. Norway and Spain and Germany as well. So, well, thank you for joining us, everyone. Shall we crack on and kind of look at some of the kit that we provide and you use, Espen?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, so equipment showcase then. So today we are going to highlight two particular cameras. And we'll kind of get Espen's thoughts on them and kind of how he uses them. But before I do that, Espen, why do you use OM?
The reason I use OM, I remember being curious about it back in 2019. I was a Canon user before, and at that time they had one of these great kind of, you got to borrow the gear. And I think maybe Claire had contacted me within OM and asked if I wanted to borrow it. And usually you only got to borrow it for like a short period of time, but it was right before Christmas. And luckily I got to keep it for probably a month or something like that. And I remember just having I think it was the EM1X with a 300mm attached and a 1.4 teleconverter. And I just love the compactness, how small it was, and the image stabilization was something that I'd never experienced before. I mean, I remember lying next to a river photographing a dipper at like 13th of a second, and I was hooked after that. So shortly after, I sold my gear and I got my first OM gear, or Olympus system as it was called then. I got an old EM1 Mark II, the 300 and the 1.4, and that was just, I still get kind of a nostalgic feeling using the 300 and just like a small camera and just put that on a sling around my shoulder and just walk around to see what bird life I find, because you barely feel that is with you, you know. So
yeah. I love the EM1 Mark II. It was my introduction to Olympus back in the day as well, and then I brought a Mark I as a second body. But there was something about that Mark II that was just magical. I wish I kept mine. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I was actually thinking about selling it, and I was advised on something. No, that's like your first camera for OM1, for OMSYSTEM. I'm definitely keeping it. You know, it's and it saved me in Costa Rica. I had a camera break down on me, and the EM1 Mark II saved me, and that was what I used for almost the entire trip. So yeah, love that camera.
That's lucky. All right, so the first camera we're talking about today is the OM5 Mark II. If you haven't played with one, make sure you get into your retail stores to play with it. But let's quickly run through the specs. So 20.4 megapixels. It's IP53 rated. You can literally kind of drench this, and it will keep on going. I'm sure, Espen, have you had to use this in some extremes at some point?
I have used the OM5, not the Mark II, but I have the OM5.
Okay.
And I really like it because it's such a tiny camera. So I use that. I can use that for filming, and very often just going out for a little recce or something like that. When I want to keep it really low weight, I'll bring that one with me.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, the 418 grams of the Mark II, and taking mine now, you get kind of the ND filters and kind of that the pro capture and everything in there as well. It's quite a formidable beast as a little camera goes. So it's perfect to go against kind of the OM1 Mark II if you're just looking for a smaller, lighter camera to take with you. So you never know. You could even replace your. Carry on.
I was just gonna say I had this thought a while back that if you were looking for like a perfect, also like a birding setup, I think like an OM5 paired with the 75 to 300 is such a lightweight setup that is just so easy to take with you, especially if you have, other things with you. You got binoculars, a scope, and all these other things. You can almost keep that setup in your pocket, and you're getting equivalent of 600 millimeter in full frame equivalent. So it's really cool.
Yeah, and it's just not going to break your back, is it? It's just going to, and you just take it everywhere. So, yeah, it really is a formidable beast, and something so small, so lightweight. The autofocus is pin sharp and fast. It's definitely worth, if you're thinking about getting a second body but you want something lighter than your OM1 Mark II, for example, then definitely kind of get into stores, have a little play with it. It is one that you kind of start falling in love with after about 10 minutes of using it. So it's definitely worth an option. Let's just kind of, before we move on to the next camera, someone's got a lovely little comment for you, Espen. They love your job. So.
Thank you. And it's a nice job.
So let's move on to the next camera, which is probably the obvious choice for wildlife, I would say. And it's the OM1 Mark II. Let me just try and get my sample here. I'm also using the video on it today. So OM1 Mark II. Absolute formidable beast at 20.4 megapixels again, but this time you've got the stacked sensor, same weather sealing as the OM5 Mark II, but you've got the better image stabilization. It is slightly heavier, but you've got the bigger battery, so you've got more shots coming through it, and you've got loads more autofocus points. So it's going to capture from edge to edge almost in terms of focusing points. From there, you've then got the higher spec on all the computational modes. So you've got that 8 megapixel high res, you've got the NDs up to 128, you've got gradual NDs in there as well, and you've got the higher end focus stacking. So yeah, it's a much better beast. It is that slightly heavier, but it does the job. Why is the camera for you then, Espen? Why this particular camera?
I mean, it has everything. I mean, even with like getting my hands on the first OM1, it was such a big jump up from what OM System had in the past, and the OM1 Mark II has just brought it one step higher, and it does everything I wanted to do. Like bringing that out in the field for wildlife photography. It is such an easy experience. I know that I can, bring the shutter speed down to really low, like a tenth of a second handheld is possible with this and a long telephoto lens, as long as you stabilize a little bit, which is incredible. And then using, things like Pro Capture, like at this time of year in the UK anyways, I love using Pro Capture for birds in spring, and you get them, you can find nesting birds. You can use a long telephoto lens to stand back, and using Pro Capture at 120 frames per second, and capturing the birds flying back and forth. It's just a perfect camera for wildlife photography, but also an all-rounder. I use that for nighttime photography, macro photography as well, and the same kind of features. So just are good for all of it.
Yeah, we'll obviously talk more about the computational modes later. But can you kind of give me just a quick idea? And do you use more computational modes than kind of what you did on kind of the EM1X or the EM1 Mark II? Now that they've kind of upped in spec.
Yeah, I think so. I'm using more. I'm always looking for opportunities where I can use some of the computational modes, especially if it's just high res, even for wildlife. If there is a moment where I see that something is sitting very still for wildlife, I will try to use high res for it, and experimenting with the live ND as well to get really slow shutter speeds in the middle of the day when you would have to use a filter or something like that normally. That's also really fun to do if you want to try and blur out either the other parts of the wildlife, or if you actually want to try and blur out some of the wildlife itself. And focus stacking or focus bracketing as well is something I use. I use a lot. And I wanted to say as well, the weather sealing on this camera is incredible. They say that it can go down to -10 or something like that, but I use it at Dovre in Norway at -36 and it's still fine. So yeah, and I never worry about, I get comments from other brands saying, what do you use? Somebody was coming to Scotland and they said, they sent me a comment saying, like, it always rains there. Like what camera cover should I use to cover up my gear? And I was like, I don't know. I never use that sort of stuff. Once I switched to Olympus, then yeah, I never used anything to cover up my camera from the weather again. So.
Well, yeah, I think that's kind of ultra important to remember, is that we're one of the only camera brands out there to actually IP rate our kit, and that means essentially it gets very thoroughly tested, and to the point where from kind of a UK perspective, we almost try and abuse it as much as possible just to see where the limitations are, to be honest. And even though, even being with the company since February, I still haven't managed to break a single thing. So
yeah,
it's very surprising.
Talking to that, when we were in Namibia, Emily from Microphone Nerds, she was also there, and she was telling me that she put, I think it was the OM5 that she put under a waterfall in Iceland. It was absolutely fine. I haven't done that yet because I don't want to try it. But after hearing that, I was like, okay, so I really don't have anything to worry about.
Yeah. So, and I think we'll have to give you a camera to go and test, so you don't have to use a personal one. We'll just that would be great. Yeah, great. So someone who's been on the show before, Wayne, has left us a great comment. So the OM5 Mark II, extremely capable, and it really is. For me, it's just a mini lightweight camera that's so versatile. And like I said, it's great as a second body, and it's worthwhile looking at. Here's a really interesting question for you, though, Espen. So obviously, this particular person's got an R5 Mark II Canon. So do you still prefer OM system, and why?
I mean, that's kind of a tricky question for me, because I've never used the Canon R5 Mark II. I haven't used Canon since I had it, and then I had a 7D or something like that. So I can't really respond to that because I've never tried it, but I don't really have any reason to either, because I'm getting everything I want from the gear that I have.
Yeah, that's cool. That's fine. And so can you tell Chris then why he should be going and getting an OM1 Mark II over an EM1X?
Oh, I mean, there's a big jump up there. I know the EM1 1X introduced bird subject mode, but to tell you the truth, I never really used it with that camera, because when the OM1 and the OM1 Mark II came out, it was such a big jump. So if you're photographing birds particularly, but also for mammals, the subject detection autofocus has gotten me images that I couldn't get in the past, just because of how quickly that focus catches on. That's always been one of the big ones for me. But and for the other things, you just have higher specs on everything. And since it's been out for a while now, you can pick up a secondhand one as well if money is a bit tight.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you between the Mark 1 and the Mark 2 about the subject detection. Have you seen kind of a bit of a, for me, from a Mark 1 to a Mark 2, I've seen a big improvement on the subject detection. What about yourself?
So. I think they're both very, very good. I think maybe occasionally the O1 Mark II has, I can see it's a bit better, but I think they're both of them are very, very high up there.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we go into lenses then? Now that we've done bodies, so let's have a look at lenses. So the first one we're going to talk about is one I have to try and find on my table, and that is the 75-300 Mark II. And as you said earlier about the OM5 Mark II with this as a birding camera, that is a formidable beast in terms of how small that would be. So to give you an idea, this lens is only 423 grams. So that's literally, I think it was about 5-6 grams more than the body itself, which is ridiculous. So is this still a lens you use regularly?
I use it more for, I made a video on like how to get good wildlife photos with a budget lens. So I use it for making videos, and I also use it for if I'm going wrecking. Like sometimes I'll just go on my bike and explore the area around me, and I might just put my own 5 and this one on because I want to take a couple of images like that. Or if I'm going on a hike where, maybe photography isn't the most important thing, then I will bring this lens. And that's not saying that it's not a good enough lens that you can get good wildlife photo with. It's just that wildlife photography is my thing, my occupation. So I'm going to use the top of the line. But I have to say, I'm extremely impressed with this lens because I remember having like an equivalent lens back when I was using a different camera brand, and it was not as sharp. Like when I zoom in on this photo that I got of the red squirrel with this lens, it is tack sharp. So I've really been impressed with how good a result you can get with this lens for what it costs and for how small it is.
Yeah. Well, when you sent me this image that's on screen at the moment, I literally had to kind of double take with it and go, and I had to go into the metadata and behind and go, are we sure this is this lens? Like, are we sure about that?
Yeah.
But by all means, it actually is that lens, and like you said, for a budget lens, to get to that 600mm full length, full frame equivalent, it's pretty damn good, right? It's
absolutely really good. I think one thing I did here as well was like using maybe this was taken with f8 or something like that, because that you can get even more sharpness with it. But still, it's an amazing lens.
Yeah, it really is. So if you are kind of just starting out and you're looking for that wildlife lens, then that's pretty much the thing to go for, and until you kind of want your f2.8s or your fixed f4s, which obviously cost a little bit more money, and we'll kind of go into those in a second. But if you wanted to start out and get that, then that's the way forward. So let's talk about the 40-150 f4, which there it is. Yep, it's hidden behind all the other lenses. There we go. So let's compare the 75-300 we just had and the 40-150 f4. So this is the 40-150 f4 in this hand here. So it's actually smaller because obviously it goes half the distance. But this time, obviously, it's got more metal on it, but it's actually lighter. It's 382 grams. But the other great thing then is that this is weather sealed, whereas the 75-300 isn't. And yeah, it's great to go with a combination of the 12-45 f4 we do and the 8-25 f4 we do. So if you want a nice trio f4 lenses, it's quite ideal for that. Use this lens, Espen?
Yeah, I have that lens. So I will use that lens regularly as a substitute for the 4150 f2.8, which that used to be my go-to, but now is my go-to is the 50 to 200 f2.8. But if I need to stay lightweight, or if I'm going maybe in the hills or something like that, doing some more landscape, or maybe even, I might come across deer and I want to put them in the environment, then I will bring this lens. And in fact, I went on a 2-month cycle last year with my partner. We started in northern Italy and cycled all the way to northern Norway. And this was attached then to my OM3, which I had in a little, almost like a basket kind of a thing in front of my bike that was just continuously attached to it, because it was the ideal lens to film as I went along, and also take snapshots of landscapes. And larger animals along the way. So yeah, I will use that lens all the time, actually, and especially when weight is an issue, then and space for me, then I can't bring the bigger new white.
Yeah, makes sense. So if you had to pick for a budget lens out of the 75 to 300 and the 40 to 150 f4, take in mind there's still a price difference between them, which one would you go for?
I mean, it depends if I'm going recommendations. It depends what your main subjects are. If your main subjects are wildlife, I would go for the 75 to 300, because you're getting that extra reach. Bear in mind that you can't use a teleconverter on that lens, but 600 millimeter equivalent is, that's pretty decent anyways. The 4150, if you're into landscapes, but also maybe want to photograph some larger mammals, it's good for those situations when you do get very close to wildlife. But unless you're photographing tame birds, or you're using a hide to get close, this is great that you managed to get the robin in here with this lens, but it doesn't always have the reach for small little birds. That's a tricky one. So it depends what your priorities are.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we move on, then you've already mentioned it, but the f2.8, and obviously we then start looking at quite a different beast. So this is the f4 that we just mentioned, and then this is the f2.8, which is a phenomenal lens. Don't get me wrong; it's what I call one of our legacy lenses, because we've done it for so long, and it is pin sharp all the way through. It's fast focusing. It weighs a little bit more, so it's 760 grams, but it then has a minimal focusing distance of 0.7 meters. So you can get really, really close. You can get really, really far away, and you can put the teleconverters on it as well. So how often do you now use this lens, Espen?
So right now, I don't use it often, because we have the little white, which has replaced it. But that used to be my go-to. And yes, even though it's the same focal length as the smaller one you just showed, it has the f2.8 as well. So this is the lens that I would always pull out whenever, obviously I would do it for landscapes and those kind of things, but for wildlife, it's whenever I have large mammals. So in Namibia, that focal length was ideal, because you have so many bigger mammals that you want to capture in the frame. But also when I want to put animals in their environment, then I would also reach for this lens. And here is another situation where I'm using a hide, so I'm getting very close to the wildlife without them knowing me that I'm there. So I'll very often use this lens. And here, this is the black grouse lek, which I host every April. I have people coming to photograph these birds, because the males will basically fight each other quite brutally, like this one. If you see what's going on there, it's like basically standing on the other one's head. It's unbelievable. But this lens here then has been perfect for those situations, because it's got the f2.8. I can start photographing in really low light. I can use a fast shutter speed to capture the action, or there's fighting, or there's flight, anything like that. So even though as a wildlife photographer and photographing a lot of birds, the longer telephoto lenses are what you're going to use the most, I reach for this one, or I have reached for this one a lot of the time, as well as a perfect kind of combination. It was one of the, when I first started out with OM, I went for the 300 at first, but as soon as I could afford it, I bought this one to go next to it.
Yeah, because obviously there's a reason between both of them, isn't there, for the 300mm f4 and the 40-150. So yeah, that makes complete sense. And talking about the 300mm, that is the one that is up next as well, and that is in front of me. So this, in comparison, I always like doing a size comparison for everyone to see what we're looking at. So this is the 300mm f4 for you, and that's 1,270 grams. So that is quite a bit heavier than this, right? But it goes a lot further. In a full frame equivalent, you're talking 600mm, and it is the fixed f4. The other benefit to this is then it also has the image stabilization in it, which the 40-150 doesn't. Now, you mentioned this kind of was one of your first lenses. I imagine it's now quite nostalgic for you and you're going to keep hold of it forever.
Well, funny you should say that. So when I first got the 150-400, the big white, I had to sell this lens in order to afford it. But within 2 years, I bought it back. So I couldn't do without it. I love this lens. And I tell, when people ask me for advice about getting into wildlife photography or which lens they should go for OMSYSTEM, I think this lens is one of the best deals in wildlife photography. Like no matter what camera brand you talk about, because it is super sharp. It is f4, 300, 600mm equivalent. It is just an amazing lens, and it works perfectly with the 1.4 teleconverter as well. And if you are considering a budget option, you can get a hold of them used sometimes, or even they're not that much new as well when you compare it to top of the line market. So yeah, I absolutely love this lens, and whenever space and weight is an issue, then I will reach for this lens. And it's also just like the fun lens for me to like just put on a sling. I put a 1.4 teleconverter in my pocket, and I just go for a wander, and I just see what I come across. And this was the lens, like I said, when I went cycling for 2 months as well, I had to consider which lens was it going to be, because the 150-400, the big white, was just not going to be an option for me cycling. So this was just ideal, and you can get just incredible tack sharp images with it.
Yeah, and on that, obviously it's a fixed focal length, right? So that takes for that focal range takes quite a lot of learning, I'd imagine, to be able to track a bird through the sky, for example. What would you say to people that's listening if they're looking at buying a 300mm f4? To kind of, what lessons are they going to have to learn to really make the most of that lens?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely something to consider, and it's something along. My tip for that is it's the same thing as when you're learning to use binoculars. It's if you're looking at a bird through the naked eye, and you were to put binoculars on it, the key thing is to not take your eyes off that bird, but just lift your binoculars up to kind of right in front, so that your eyes are just fixed on where the bird is. And it's the same thing with a lens like this. You don't want to be looking down at your gear and then try and find it again. You want to keep looking at what you're looking at and just bring your lens up in front of you. And yes, it is a fixed lens. But to tell you the truth, like a lot of times in wildlife photography, we want that reach anyway. And for birds, for small birds especially, I will use the 1.4 teleconverter a lot anyways. And then it is very good to have another lens that can go with that, like a zoom one, like the 40-150 or the 50-200 is an ideal companion to this. But if I don't have that with me, then I always just think about, well, how can I get creative with what I have? I'll go for extreme close-ups, or just make use of what you have. Don't think that, oh, I wish could zoom back right now. No, just go for that close-up image or something that really strikes you about the animal that you're photographing. Go in and get the details.
And talking about animals, obviously the image on the screen is stunningly beautiful. I imagine it was very cold. But can you? Yeah, sorry. Carry on. Tell us a little bit more about the image.
It was quite cold. Yeah, this is up in Glenshee in Scotland. That actually is a great place because it's got one of the highest roads that you can drive in Scotland. So you can drive up to a ski resort that's there, and you can walk up the hills. And there's quite a few mountain hares up there. So whenever, the snow in winter, I love to go photograph these animals because their fur still turns white in winter. Although with as many mild winters we have, who knows how long that's going to keep up. It
Yeah.
can't be a favor for them to stay white when everything else is dark.
No.
But so this was a mountain hare that I photographed with this lens, and it was great because obviously in the snow it's very cold. I have a lot of extra gear on to stay warm, and I forgot I have these snowshoes, so it's easier to walk on top of the snow, but I forgot them. So I was thigh deep in snow trying to get closer to this hare and crawling the very last end of it, and then getting the photo. But I just love the light in this because it's very difficult to almost see where the snow ends and the hare begins and the sky begins, because it's just such a nice soft light in this condition. So it was a memorable day.
Right, I was going to say, when I was looking at this image earlier, I was trying to find the feet of the hare, and I was like, "What's going on?" It almost looks like it's in clouds or something, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
it's a crazy image. So I think that one image would be great just to sell the 300 mm f4. That as an advertisement should say it all.
I have many images with this lens. Like I said, it's my favorite one. I wouldn't say the favorite one. The big wide is probably my favorite one, but this lens has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, nice. But what about the 100 to 400 Mark II? So this is obviously the Mark II. In comparison, the Mark I didn't have the image stabilization. This now does. It's still weather sealed. It's got that 9-blade aperture. Thoughts on this then, Espen?
Yeah, so this is a really good lens, and it really surprised me. I got to borrow the 100 to 400 Mark I back in the day. And it's a great lens, but I always struggled a little bit with it. And I've come to realize later on, after I got this one, and I felt like I got a lot better images with it, that is probably to do with how I photograph, because I photograph a lot using very slow shutter speeds. And I realized that image stabilization synchronization is actually very important to me. So I got a lot more sharper images with this Mark II lens. And I have this lens as well, and I do use it. It's for me, and as an advice as well, I guess, if you're thinking about either 300 or this one is a lot more adaptable. You can zoom back, so you can use it in more like in a variety of different situations. Plus, you get an extra 100 mils as well, and it is very sharp. It's a very good and capable lens, and about similar size and weight to the 300. I mean, they're fairly. They look kind of similar. Anyways, so
yes.
This is also a very good and capable lens.
Yeah, and just because I didn't do the size comparison, so this is the 300 mm f4. This is the 100 400. So it is actually quite a bit smaller. In terms of weight, the 300 mil is actually a little bit heavier. But it all comes down to, I guess, whether you want that versatility of being able to zoom back in or not, or whether you want that sharpness of the 300 mil. That's when I talk to a lot of customers about it, that's all it comes down to, is whether you want versatility or the kind of pin sharpness of the both.
Yeah, I think you can get really sharp images with this one as well. But I think for me, it's a little bit more about the f-stop, because you can shoot with less light with a 300 with f4 as well. You can use faster shutter speeds in more situations without pushing the ISO through the roof. So that's also a consideration of mine, anyways.
Yeah, and I think this says it all. So yes,
nice.
If you're looking at it, it's definitely worth getting. We'll kind of go through some of the other comments in a minute, because lots of people have made some effort in some of the comments about some product. So we'll go through those in a second. But let's go into our next one, and we're going slightly heavier now, and we're talking 150-600 now. This is an absolute beast of a lens. It's kind of, full frame, 1200 mil. It weighs 2 kilograms, so it's you definitely start feeling the weight on it. But not much else will give you that 1200 mil full frame equivalent, with the image stabilization, with the weather sealing, and yeah, I'm guessing you've used this a fair bit during the time before the big whites came out.
I got to borrow this when it launched, actually, so I brought it with me to Dobra. And like you said, it has an incredible reach. So it was a fun lens to use. But like you said, it is a bit heavier. But then it's funny enough, when you put it next to the big white, it's not too much difference in the weight. But I find that the weight distribution of the big white is nicer because it's spread out a bit more. This one is a little bit more dense, heavy, if you know what I mean. But yeah, also, I know a lot of people like to use this lens. And I think that, for a lot of people who come to our system because weight is an issue, then maybe this isn't the lens you're going to be walking around with, if you're considering that. But when you're photographing a lot from heights, or you're going on safari where you're in a vehicle, this lens is absolutely amazing because it gives you such a big reach as well.
Yeah, if you're not too worried about kind of carrying too much weight, or if you're used to carrying bigger lenses anyway from maybe previous camera brands, then but you want that kind of extended reach, so you want that 1200 mil, or if you're using the 2x teleconverter on it, for example, the 2400 mil reach, then it's kind of the right lens. I've seen people use this at kind of F1 and kind of high-end sports races and stuff like that, just because they want that level of reach that no one else can get. And as soon as they put it on a monopod, they're not worried about the weight all day. So it's quite a formidable lens if you're using it in the right areas, I think. And if you're really interested in that, I believe there's £600 cash back on it as well, which I'll go through later anyway. But it's definitely worth looking at in terms of deals at the moment. And so let's go into the white lenses then. Obviously, Espen, I get the impression that you are totally in love with the 5200 and the 15400 we're about to show. I'm guessing they've kind of changed your position on in photography somewhat, in terms of clarity and focusing. Would I be right in saying that?
Absolutely. I mean, when I got my hands on the big white, it was, I hadn't used this one before then. I think big white was before that, anyways. But it just opened up a new level for photography. I remember walking around in my local woodland and then seeing a wren, which is this tiny, the tiniest little bird, and it sat on this bit of moss on the edge of a tree, or the bottom of a tree. And I was looking at it and I was thinking, I should just try. I'm not close enough really for a good image. But then I went down and I tried it with the big white, and even though it was still small in the frame, I was just looking at this lens, just like, wow, it just opened up new doors for me. And as a wildlife photographer, that is the lens that I use 80 to 90% of the time. Unless I'm in certain situations. When we were doing the Namibia talk, I mentioned I have a newsletter as well, and I broke down the different lenses that I used for Namibia, and the 50 to 200 was really up there. Like the 150 to 400, the big white, I probably used a bit more than this one, but this one was very high up there and close to how much I'd used it, because of so many more situations presented itself with large African mammals. And the new 50 to 200 was absolutely incredible. And going back to the black grouse that I photographed as well, showing the 40 to 150 image before, because I have hides, I can go close. I use this lens. I spent probably 14 days on that lek in April this year, and I used this lens the whole time. It was just perfect for it. Just the combination of these two, with the 50 to 200 with the f2.8 now, is incredible. And then the big white for the longer reach. It's it's a great combo.
So unfortunate to have two 5200s. So one behind me and one here.
Oh no!
I know. So all the troubles in the world I have. To give you an idea, we always get questions about why you'd buy a 40 to 150 f2.8 over 50-200 or vice versa. Have you got an answer for that?
Well, for me, I mean that you're talking about 50 mil or 100 millimeter equivalent, which doesn't sound that much. But as I mentioned for the Black Grouse Lek, when I had the 40 to 150, I was constantly changing between my big white and the 40 to 150. But as I said, this year, because of the new 50 to 200, I could use it the whole time. So yes, it is a little bit heavier. It is a little bit bulkier, but that extra reach really matters. And especially for me as well, using a lot of Pro Capture, because I can get a lower f-stop with f2.8 and get faster shutter speed without using too high ISO. This is a lens as well that you can then start thinking about getting those images for birds in flight using Pro Capture. So the versatility of it is amazing. Comes at a little bit of a sacrifice with being a little bit bigger.
Yes, yeah. But then when you talk about weight and weight distribution in particular, this is so much more balanced in comparison to this. So even though this is physically smaller, this is quite top heavy. So even on most cameras, but this is perfectly balanced. You can hold it in any way and it lands perfectly.
It's a nice lens to use. Yeah. And I just feel the zoom as well is very, very nicely. And it's all internal.
Yes. So yeah, it's all internal, ready to go. And obviously it's got the image stabilization in comparison as well. So, which is obviously really, really useful to have. So not alone have you got that f2.8 to boost your shutter speeds, but yeah, you've got that image stabilization just to keep on going that little bit further. And I would say we do a lot of events in the UK, and this is one of the lenses we literally take everywhere we go. So, and every time we show this lens off, people are blown away in terms of what it can do. So I will say, no matter where you are in the world, and I know there's a lot of different countries on tonight, make sure you kind of go to an event near you or go into one of your retail stores that has one, because it will change your level of photography, just like we were talking about earlier a minute ago. Yeah, it is. It's an astonishing quality piece of kit, and it's not something that's been kind of a short time in development. It took a long time to develop a lens like that and make it work. So yeah, it's definitely worth playing with. Now, I do want to clarify, we don't have rhinos in the UK unless they're in a zoo or somewhere like that. So this is one of the trips from Namibia, wasn't it? One of the shots from Namibia, wasn't it, Espen?
Yes, it is. And that was one of the considerations, because this was, normally in Namibia, we went on these drives, so in a safari vehicle, but this was actually a tracking event. So we had two experienced local anti-poachers and trackers with us, and we walked towards these rhinos. And then it was, what lenses am I going to bring with me? I'm not going to bring my entire backpack and lug it, because I don't even know if we'll have time to change lenses and stuff, because we had to be on our toes. Like if the guides told us you need to move, we need to move. So which lens do I bring with me? The 150 to the 400 or 50 to 200? And I was just, well, it's got to be this one. It's big animals, and even here, it's a big animals, but I could get in close as well to just have the head. Yeah, so it was a no-brainer to pick this lens when we went out for that evening walk.
Yeah, and was that with the 1.4 teleconverter or the 2x teleconverter, or is that just the lens?
Just the lens. I think I did bring the 1.4 with me, but I never used it.
Yeah,
so it works really well with the 1.4.
So you were fairly close to a rhino.
Oh yeah, we were very close. I said maybe 20, 30 meters or something like that. Very close. And it was a bit, at one point it was like making a little bit of a grunt and like putting his foot down a little bit. And they, the guides were just like, okay, all of us in a line, because then we look smaller. So you are a little bit on your toes. These are big animals. And we're nothing to them if they were to like charge for us.
That's brilliant. Well, I bet that was a interesting few minutes of your life. I can imagine.
Big highlight.
All right, so let's talk about the big white then. I don't have a second one of these, so I've only got the one in the background. So this thing is phenomenal, right? It can shoot close, it can shoot far away. It's got that 1.25 teleconverter built into it. You can then throw the 1.4 or the 2 times on top of that as well. And all in 1,875 grams. It's so lightweight for what it is.
That's right. Yeah, that is. As a wildlife photographer, this is, this is the top. This is once you get this, you're fairly happy. You're considering other options for maybe staying lightweight or stuff like that, but this is the lens that I will use. It lives on my camera body. It never comes off it really. And when I go out in the morning or for any kind of photography session, this is what I reach for. Adaptability is amazing. The reach is just unreal. So for whether you're photographing birds or mammals, or even smaller insects and things like that, it's just or mushrooms, it's just ideal because you can lie down, zoom in, you blur out the background, you get a nice sharp image of small insects or flowers and stuff like that as well. So the versatility is amazing on this lens.
Yeah. When I first played with this lens, I just kind of put it on a camera, shooting out the back garden. I didn't really realize what I was using, I suppose, because suddenly I was pinpointing like single petals on flowers and blurring the background out. And I'm like, this is a big white lens. How is it doing that? This is built for wildlife, but it can do everything.
People as well. I'll often use it for people when you're a little bit further away to get a close headshot or something like that. It really blurs out the background nicely. So yeah, it's just everything.
Yeah. So I want to know, you've obviously used this lens a lot, but I want to kind of know why you got to this particular image as the one you wanted to present for this lens.
I don't know. I think it was this was a recent one. So I think I sent you some from 2025. I think this was.
Yep.
So this was out on Tyree, where I mentioned, next year I'll be going back to photograph otters and puffins in some of the islands. But for this one here, it was kind of one of those experiences we talked about earlier as well, when wildlife comes a bit close. And I was lying photographing birds next to a little pond, and they were quite far away, but this lens, I could get the reach. And then all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see this brown hair, just round a corner and come so close to me. And it was just something about, like, I could zoom back a bit more to get like a wider environment, but I kind of really went in close to just really show those super sharp eyes. And basically just the eyes and part of the front of the hair is what is sharp, and then it just blurs out behind it. So for me, it was just a fantastic experience when wildlife comes so close, and you got the right gear to get the photo with you. So that's
makes sense. Well, it's a great image. I love how kind of where the body obviously blurs out, the fluff on the fur on the back is still also spraying out a little bit. It's a great little kind of nice little thing that's happening in the background. So just a quick thing about teleconverters then. So we do obviously do the 1.4 and the 2 times teleconverter. They are tiny, they are lightweight. I very regularly now use the 2 times on the 50-200 and the 150-400, and I haven't seen any sort of level of degradation in any of it. Are you still kind of stuck on the 1.4? Or are you now using the 2, Espen?
I do have the 2 as well, but I have to say the 1.4 is the one I will reach for more often. I think that works just a little bit better when it comes to how well it fits with the different lenses. Like, I think the autofocus is still very, very fast on both of them, even with subject detection. That surprised me when I used both on the 50-200. But the 1.4, when I used it with the 50-200, I was like, I can't see any difference in sharpness or anything. And the 2 times teleconverter, I felt like, I can see, there's a little bit here, so maybe I need to stop up with my f-stop or something like that. So I will use both of them, and I think there's definitely a time for using both of them, but I use the 1.4 slightly more often.
Fine, no worries. And I just want to go on to this one here then. So obviously we've spoken a lot about kind of big zooms, and we'll kind of go into some the comments in a minute about that. But two other lenses that you particularly use, so the 1240 f2.8 and the 60mm. Do you have a 90mm as well, or are you just preference towards the 60?
I don't have a 90mm as well. I actually started with macro. It's just the recent couple of years that I've started getting into macro, and I think I've had a 60mm now for 2 years. And I'm just, my thinking is that, you know, I'm just getting into this. I'm going to learn to use the 60mm for all it's worth, and like really get to know it and get the best images I can. So I know where, you know, the limits are with the 60mm. And I think that's the kind of thing when you're going through different lenses and stuff like that, you know, get to know, or cameras as well, get to know the gear that you have so well that you can feel the limits of the equipment that you're using. That's when you should think about, oh, okay, I need this thing because that's going to give me some images I don't have before. So I think the 90mm is on my shopping list, and especially after this year, like I said here, this is an image using the macro in the UK. But after Borneo, I've just gotten so much into nighttime photography, and the 60mm. I posted an image on Instagram today, which one of my favorites from there is an angle-headed lizard photographed at night with the 60mm. And just the detail of it, it's just incredible. But I think the 90mm will be my next lens purchase, unless OMSYSTEM are going to bring out something really cool I don't know about.
I don't think there's anything much cooler lined up than the 90mm, to be honest. So. Not that I would know. So I want to know more about the 1240 image as well, because I'm guessing that's either. I imagine you've either gone one way or two ways about it. You've either gone 12mm and you've gotten really close somehow, or you've done 40mm and you're about like 2-3 steps away from that.
Yeah, I think this is a 12mm. So I'm not nearby this bird. I'm actually sitting comfortably on a chair using the OI Share app and controlling Pro Capture from my phone.
Right.
So this is one of those ideal for me projects during spring. Obviously, very careful not to disturb the birds as they're breeding. It's very so you need to be very careful about these kind of images. But you know, I saw that the great-tailed was nesting in this tree, and a lot of times great-tails will nest a little bit higher in the trees, but this one was close to the ground. So immediately I'm thinking, oh wow, I could get a tripod in there, and I could go for a wide angle, because it's something I've been wanting to do for a while. So yeah. Sat there, watched them. As soon as the birds fly away to go get some food, then I already have, you know, my OM1 Mark II with the 12-40 set up. I got all my settings ready. Pro Capture's ready to go. I've linked my phone to the camera. I run over, set it up, and yeah, as you said, I think I was a 12mm, and they used manual focus there to focus on the nesting hole, and I used SH1 120 frames per second. Sat back and just waiting for the birds to fly back and forth, and I can just, you know, press that Pro Capture button whenever they come flying in. And I think this is one of my favorite images from that session. But this was the lens. I got the lens when I first started using Olympus back in the day, along with the 300, because I wanted a normal reach lens, you know, everyday lens that you can use for everything. So this has been with me. This lens has been with me from the beginning, but I guess maybe it's only recently that I've tried using it a bit more for wildlife as well, going for those wider angles.
Yeah, it's not something that I would say a lot of people think about, using that kind of the app to connect to your camera so you can shoot remotely and that sort of thing. It's not something that I find common in the UK being used to do that. So it's a good little thing that I might have to see if I can do.
It's a great app. Yeah, it works well.
So let's just quickly answer some questions then. So OM3 for wildlife photography.
Yes, the image of a coot earlier, when I had the 100-400, is actually from a video I did using the OM3 with that lens in Edinburgh for wildlife photography. If you go to my YouTube channel, you search for OM3 for wildlife photography, you actually find that that one. And yeah, the OM3 now is, I have it in my bag, and right now it's my travel kind of camera. I film with it. I do a lot of just general travel photography for it. I do use it for wildlife as well, but I do find that if you're photographing wildlife for a long time, the kind of what is it called, ergonomics, is that what the word
Yeah,
is?
yeah, ergonomics.
The holding of this. I know some people get an extra little grip here, so it's better to
Yep.
hold. But I noticed that after many, many hours of photographing with this for wildlife, I'm often like clutching the camera or lying on the ground, awkward positions. Then I find that that's the only thing that kind of, okay, this is why I prefer the OM1 Mark II for wildlife photography in the long run. But it's an absolutely all-round capable camera, and I do use it for that. And yeah, like I filmed that whole video just using this for wildlife, and it's great because the features on it are superb. So yeah, so to me it was all about the handling of it, but I use it quite regularly. Yeah.
And talking about video, obviously it's not something as OM we talk a huge amount about, but how capable are our cameras in video?
I mean, they're very capable, especially now with the, I forgot what it's called, but you're filming in the log 10, and that, so you're getting really high quality video. So yeah, I use it all the time. Like the OM3 there is basically my go-to for filming wider angles, myself or something in the environment, getting B-roll. And then it's so nice and easy to just switch right over to video on the OM1 Mark II, because I'm always trying to think that when I'm photographing something, I also want to catch a little bit of a clip for it, because then I can use it for either a YouTube video, a tutorial video, anything like that. So I use it all the time, and I think it's great.
Cool. And this one, new with the OM1 Mark II 1240 and the 100/400 and 2x teleconverter. What resources are available to new users to dial in settings? So from my point of view, you've got quite a few different options. So on the top dial, you have a few custom modes that you can kind of set all your settings into, and they'll all save into that. So you could set one up to kind of do wildlife in particular. You set one to do macro. You could set to, and you can kind of save it all in that sense. Otherwise, obviously, you can kind of go into the menus and set something up independently if you wanted to. Any other thoughts on that, Espen?
Yeah, I was also wondering if the resources available, if you're asking about like how to set these things up. I actually have on my website, Espen.Helland.com, I have made a couple of courses in the past, which I've now turned over into kind of a membership. So I've called it the OM Club, where I have hours and hours of videos and PDFs on how to set up the cameras for nature photography. So if you are interested in that, you could head on over to our website and check it out. I also have several free videos on YouTube about how to set these things up for wildlife and birding, and I know there are other people as well, so you can check those out if that was the question.
Yes, yeah. And there's also loads of YouTube videos from OM directly. And if you go to My OM System, there's lots of resource on there as well. So you're not alone. Otherwise, try and find one of us, either if you're in the UK or in America or somewhere, there's always a OM representative somewhere hanging around. So just go and find one of them, and they'll be able to tell you everything you need to know. Just seeing if there's anything else. Oh, here's an interesting one. Would the 50-200 replace the 40-150 f2.8 and the 300 f4? My answer would be no. I think there's a reason for all three, personally. And that's not a sales technique. That is me being genuine. Espen, thoughts?
Yeah, I get this question quite a lot. For me, it has replaced the 40-150 at 2.8. I was considering keeping both of them because the 40-150 is a bit smaller, it is a bit more lightweight. And like, I have sold that one now, so that has replaced that one for me. But although if size was an issue, I would think like, maybe sometimes I wish like, maybe I shouldn't have done that, but I can't keep everything. For me, it can't replace the 300 f4. If I was to use the 300 f4 on its own, I think the 50-200 does a great job, because using the 50-200 with the 1.4, you can almost get 300 mil at f4, and it works superbly. I've tested this with sub detection, sharpness. It works really well. But the 300 f4 is a great lens in its own right, but that also works so well with the 1.4 that you get in that even longer reach. So it is a little bit, in theory, yes, maybe it could, but for me, it can't. Personally, it can't replace the 300 f4.
Fine. That's a good diplomatic answer, I think. So here's some other bits. So the 5200 is much better balanced than the 4150. We've said that it really is. So is the 5200 as sharp as the 40-150? Now the 40-150 f2.8 is, as you say, crazy sharp. I would say that 5200 is as sharp or probably sharper, especially with the autofocus being quicker as well, and that IS. Thoughts, Espen?
I can't see any difference in sharpness between the two. They're both super sharp.
Yeah. So, and then lastly, just about the 90mm. The 90mm is the way to go. Yeah. So
one day.
Eventually. So, just quickly then, a little bit of a thoughts process in terms of wildlife combos. If you're looking for kind of a 2-lens setup, the 12-100 is a great kind of overall lens. But if you want to try and do some of the stuff that Espen was doing with that bird, the great tit going into the tree, then 12-100 f4 is a great option for that. And to partner that off, then you can go with the 400 f Mark II. Sorry. As you wouldn't need to carry much else after that, I wouldn't have thought, unless you're going to buy a big white. But would you say that's quite a versatile kit, Espen, to use for wildlife?
Oh, very versatile. Yeah, I actually remember I bought the 100. The 12-100 actually before I bought the 12-40. For me, the only reason why I didn't keep it was because I was filming a lot, and for doing like a vlog type when I'm holding the camera, the 12-40 was just better for me. But the 12-100, I love that lens because it's so versatile for walking around, for everyday shots to landscape. Image stabilization works good on it. And yeah, like you say, like you're not missing a step from the 12-100, then picking up the 100-400. So you get the whole range. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're keeping the IS, you're keeping the weather sealing all the way through. Yeah. It's a great little combination, I think. So, but let's move on to something slightly different. Equipment then, Espen. I'm going to leave you to this one too, because this is your kit. This is what you use, right?
Yes. So I want to share a little bit about the gear that I use that I find invaluable for wildlife photography. First one, this is a setup of the black grouse lek. So I use these, I use tragopan hides, really quality hides. Like I've had some of these for years. Some of them have been sitting in my forest for a couple of years, and I've just left them. Absolutely fine. These are great for, when there's wildlife that are quite sensitive to animals, you want to get there ahead of time, put up a hide. If it's a very sensitive animal, you might have to get it used to these things. You may have to cover it up with more. I find that these birds, I don't need to do that. It's just to cover me and any movements I make, and I can lie in there and photograph. So here we actually show up inside these hides before the birds show up, and we don't leave until the birds have gone away. So ideally, they never know we're there. So a great use for wildlife photography. This, the middle one is, this is knitted by my mom. And I used to try on a lot of different photography gloves in the cold. Like I said, like double I can get minus 36, probably the coldest I've had there. And I use these. They're absolutely amazing. And I had her knit an extra index figure on a mitten, because in the cold, I find that gloves are really, they're always going to make my fingers cold because they're separated. But so having them together is the way to go. Like you're keeping your own fingers the body heat from the fingers is much better. And then I can just sneak that index finger out when I want to take a photo. So these have just been invaluable to me in the cold conditions. And the last image here, these are foldable mats, and they have these little bumps on them. And I use these all the time. Like I'll very often, if I'm walking around, I'll attach one of these to my camera, just using the bungee cords, and it's for lying down, because very often in wildlife photography, you want to get to eye level of whatever you're photographing. So if any bird or mammal is very close to the ground, if I'm photographing on a lock or something like that, I will use one of these mats. And this is probably the gear that I packed for going up to Orkney to photograph waders, which is a workshop we tend to do at the beginning of the year. And lying on the beach with these, it keeps me warmer, and it's not as uncomfortable to use as well. So ideal little thing to have. There are some gloves. These are kind of my backup Valorant gloves, I think. And yeah, I don't find them as warm as the other one, but if it's wet as well, or anything like that, if there's a lot of wind, or if it's not too cold, I'll use these. And a ground pod with a little tripod head on there, also really good thing to use when I'm photographing on a beach. I can just move that around. I can put my 150 to 400 on it, push it around. Ideal. A couple of other cool things as well, like just a strap like this. I use Peak Design, and I have these little clips on all my gear. And I love this about the 150 to 400, that it has these little things that I can attach them to here, so you don't have to attach them to the camera or anything else, or the tripod foot. So hooking these on to whatever you're using. This is a tripod foot that is really comfortable. This was a gift, but he does make them to order. Everybody keeps asking me about these things when they see it in videos. So I've put his email. You can email him on my website, on my gear page, espenhelland.com/gear. There'll be an email for this if you're interested. He makes those in demand. And another thing I wanted to mention, I've replaced my eye cup on my camera, so an extended one, because I kept finding, and this may have been just in the environments I was photographing, that sometimes the eyepiece would steam up. But this has really helped, just making sure my breath doesn't go up there as much as it used to. So a really nice little addition to my cameras.
Nice. So where can we get the gloves then, Espen? I think we'll all be asking that for the winter.
Yeah. Put your orders in. My mom will get right on it.
Brilliant. I'll talk to you afterwards. So hopefully the equipment side of this has been useful for everyone. We'll kind of go through some of the more of the questions later as we move on, but conscious of time as we go through. So we're going to talk a little bit about settings and techniques now. If you've watched these before, you'll know that I say there's no right or wrong answer. This is just kind of potentially Espen's kind of average settings that he uses for this type of photography. Like I said, there is no right or wrong. So we're going to move into them. Here we are. So mode dial. Espen, where do you sit on this mode dial?
I sit in between C1 and C4 and the camera, the video one. So the reason, like, I'll program either manual or aperture priority into my C1, C2 dials. But the reason for not using the M and A is that whenever I change a setting, for instance, I'm in manual and I want to change to shutter priority, that setting is going to be carried over. So in the C1 modes, there's an option for auto-saving your settings so that the camera remembers. So basically, I can go into C4, I can set up my settings, like maybe on the day I'm using a high shutter speed. C4 is usually my default shooting mode. And then C3, I'll have Pro Capture. But then if I've changed something in Pro Capture, maybe I'm switching between SH1 and SH2, and I go back into C4, I can go back in and it remembers what I've set up. So I really like that feature. And then just having, the C4 as my default wildlife. I have Pro Capture on C3. I think I have macro on C1, and I think is landscape on C2, which is maybe that much. And I use C4 just because the video is right next to it, which I'll use a lot of times. So it's just like one simple switch of the dial, and then I'm in video and then back, and then Pro Capture is probably my second most used other kind of C mode.
Okay, makes sense. I'm not someone that normally uses the custom mode, so I normally sit in manual and do everything. But yeah, everyone talks to me about the custom modes, so I probably should start using them. So let us know in the comments if you use the custom modes a lot, or is that something that Espen's just started you thinking, actually, maybe I should use them. So let's do our quick fire round then, as we normally do. So just kind of let us know, Espen, where you normally sit on these kind of dials then. So shutter speed, where do you normally sit?
This is a really tricky one.
Yep.
I mean, all this depends on. Can I do this the other way around? Can I jump to another one first? My aperture
Certainly.
is usually as low as it goes. For wildlife, almost always, I'm just as low as the lens will bring me an aperture. I'll keep it at that. Unless maybe there's two animals and I want to get them both sharp, is those rare occasions where I change my aperture to a higher one to get more sharpness. ISO, I just want to keep it as low as possible. But I do find that I found a very nice sweet spot at ISO 800 because then it's super good quality. I didn't even have to use a denoising software to clean up any noise. And I mean, even at high, you can easily get away with much higher ISO without using denoising software, but I find that the quality is just superb still. So I often have that as the back of my mind. It might just be a thing that I have and not really an actual impact, but usually around 800. And then it comes to shutter speed. Well, that just depends on the light on the day. I'll probably often walking around, I'll probably set it to something like 250th of a second, as long as it's not very dark and my ISO is through the roof then. And then if I get a couple of images, then if I'm using a high ISO at 200, then I will probably get a safe image, and then I'll bring my shutter speed even lower so that my ISO can come lower to get a higher quality image. And I'll keep going down. I'll be down at 25th of a second if that can help me get a much more quality image. But other than that, that's just for animals that are at least stay still for like a fraction of a second or something like that. As soon as they're ready action, I need to freeze. I'm up at either 1600th of a second or 2500th of a second or higher.
Nice. Okay, and what about then frames per second? Where do you normally sit?
Normally, I'm probably at 10 frames per second is my default, because then I can just about squeeze out one image if I want. Sometimes I get two, but it also gives me a decent burst mode if I need it. And now I'll bump it up to 25, or maybe even use the the black up free shooting and jump right to 25 frames per second if I'm photographing some real action.
Yeah, we've got some questions for you, and because I don't really know the custom modes, they're down to you, I'm afraid, technically wise.
That's right.
So how do you set up the custom function button for C1, etc.?
The custom, remind me, what is the custom function button again?
So that would be the so the custom function button is. I'm guessing, are they talking about the mode dial there, or the? Let's have a little quick look. Maybe they could clarify the question. Are they talking about kind of the custom modes we were just talking about?
Because I mean, if it is, I'll just go into either aperture or manual mode first, set up my settings, and then save it to the C1. But the custom function button, is there one that's called custom function? I forgot.
Yeah, we can come back to that. Maybe if you, Brian, if you could clarify whether you mean kind of the actual custom mode on the top, so C1, C2, C3, C4, or whether you actually mean a physical button. So just let us know. So let's go to the second page then whilst we're looking at that. So focus type. Where are you on focus type?
I'm always in CAF with manual focus. And I can do that because I use back button focus. Basically, there you get the best of both worlds, because I can focus with the back button, let it go, and then I can recompose if I wanted to and take the image with the shutter button. So then you're kind of getting single autofocus in the same kind of package, if you will. And you can also use manual focus at any time and take the shot if you have back button set up to do the focus for you. So I'm always using that, except for obviously I'm in star autofocus if I'm photographing stars. But yeah, that is it.
Cool. Focusing grid?
As a default, it depends a little bit on the gear I'm using. So if I'm using, the top of the line lenses, I usually use the entire focus grid with subject detection turned on. But I've turned on the dial, and if I flick that down, it goes down to one point in the middle. So basically, I go through this almost like troubleshooting mode. If I'm struggling to get focus, first thing I do, flick that dial to get a one focus point instead of the whole thing. If I still struggle, I turn off subject detection, which is programmed into the AEL button. And if I still struggle, I go to manual focus, and I tend to have peaking on with high visibility as well, so it's easier to see, so I can help get manual focus in. So those are the kind of my steps to go, because very often in wildlife photography, there might be, if it's a duck on water and it's like half submerged or something like that, subject detection might not work that well. If there's branches and stuff in the way, you kind of just need to kind of change your settings a little bit.
Yeah, cool. Metering wise, what do you do for metering now?
It's just in whatever the default was in, which I think is ESP. It's like an evaluative, I think. But the thing is, I don't think the metering mode is as important as it used to be, because you can set up highlight alerts. That's how I get my exposure, so that highlight alerts and the histogram as a guide. But the highlight alerts will show me as soon as anything is overexposed by going red. So just backing it a little bit off then. And I rarely think about the metering mode I'm in.
Yeah. Quite like a lot of people these days. Yep. And computational modes then. What do you use?
So as I mentioned, I'll use high res whenever I see that I can get away with it. If everything is still in the image, nothing is moving. Live ND to get a bit creative. I'll use that one. And I think for focus stacking, I prefer to use focus bracketing. Only because focus stacking, I feel like I have more control in focus bracketing. Focus stacking is limited to 15 images, I think. And bracketing is basically unlimited. So the way I do it, whenever I'm focus bracketing, I'll set the number of images to like just super high. You could have it at 999. I'll stop it myself, and I'll use the differential very often, unless it's a very big subject. I'll leave it at the lowest, and then I'll just manually focus slightly in front of, if it's a mushroom or anything like that, start it. I can watch the focus go behind the subject and stop it again. So I find a lot more in control of that.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so we will go into more computational modes in a second, but Luke has decided to join us from OM Talks, and hi Luke.
Cheers.
Nice to see you on here. And Wayne has come back in as well. So I have one custom mode for landscape and the 3 for various wildlife configurations. It's a good way to set up, Wayne. Yeah. And talking about the custom button that we were just on about, there's been a lot of kind of messages about that as well. So hopefully the community is sorting everyone out, which is what we like to see anyway. So
brilliant.
So let's talk about computational modes then. So Pro Capture is the one we particularly want to talk about today. it offers full resolution images when the button is half pressed. So depending on your camera, depends on how many of those you can do. But essentially it keeps on buffering them together, and then it keeps on wiping out the old ones as it goes until you press your button fully down. You press the shutter down. If you're doing multiple frames a second, it will do that, but also then obviously capture those ones that are stuck in the buffer as well. And there's no penalty. So as long as you've made sure that you've pushed the button down, you've made sure that you've captured those shots. So for me, if it's that opportunity that's unmissable, that you're never going to get that shot again, that's where Pro Capture really does come into its own. And we'll talk about the three modes we have for Pro Capture in a minute. But yeah, Espen, how much do you use Pro Capture these days?
I use it quite a lot. Like I said, that's my dial on the C3. That's like right next to my default shooting mode. So whenever it's either opportunistically, like I mentioned, like sometimes I'll go through steps for getting like a higher quality image by lowering my shutter speed. If I have a bird in a branch and I've got like a portrait image of it, and I think that it's going to fly away quite soon, I'll instinctively just turn on my Pro Capture and get ready for the flight image as well and try and get that at the same time. And then, as I said, at certain times of year, I use Pro Capture a lot more, and springtime in the UK is basically when I'll use it a lot, because birds are starting to breed, they're going to be nesting, they're going to be flying back and forth with food. And I love that, gray spotted woodpeckers or something like that, flying back and trying to capture them in flight as they move back and forth. It's just, you can get just such amazing images by using it. And I'll often use it for, if I see that something is doing a behavior that I find a little bit difficult to capture, or I just want to capture the whole sequence of the behavior, I'll switch to Pro Capture as well and use SH2 continuous focus to make sure that I get the whole behavior. So it's very versatile. I'll use it all the time.
Yeah. So my big tip on this is just make sure you've got big memory cards and fast memory cards for this. So if you want to be able to make sure you capture all that information as quickly as possible to get from one set of Pro Capture to the next, yeah, you definitely want some really fast cards. So let's talk about the different modes, because when I do events and that sort of thing, a lot of people don't realize there are 3 different modes to Pro Capture. So there's standard Pro Capture, as you can see on screen, and then there's SH1 and SH2. And the real difference between them is the kind of the frames per second they'll do, and whether they'll autofocus or kind of in between each and every single shot. So the Pro Capture will do 20 frames, but it will autofocus in between every single one. It will meter between every single one, and it will buffer up to 70 shots. The SH1 will just do 120 shots, but the focusing is completely fixed. The exposure is completely fixed. You can't change that in between. And then the SH2, that will do 50 frames per second, but it's blackout free, so you see everything happening, and it'll have autofocus and metering as well. Have you got a preferred favorite out of the 3, would you say?
I mean, it just depends on what I'm photographing. I mean, I love to use SH1 because 120 frames per second, you're getting like a movie. You're getting for birds, you're getting every wing position. You can pick the best one. But as you said, focus is locked. It might be out of focus. And to tell the truth, using Pro Capture, you're bending like 99% of your images right away, because they're either going to be out of focus or it's just not going to look right. And you're just looking for that, the top one. So I'm mostly switching between SH1 or SH2, depending if I'm waiting for an animal that's either going to fly or anything like that. If that animal is moving, let's say it's a duck on water, I'm going to have to use SH2 because I want to track the motion and be ready for that flight. Pro Capture I rarely use, except for when you use slow shutter speed, because SH1 and SH2 I think are locked to a slightly higher shutter speed. So if I want to do a slower shutter speed or anything like that, or if I'm just capturing like a behavior and I don't need as many frames per second, I'll use Pro Capture. But mainly SH1 or SH2, and it just depends if the animal is moving or not.
Yeah. No, that's I think that's the right way forward, and we've actually got examples of that from you. So let's move into these. So, which are both incredible shots. The one on the right hand side blew me away when I saw it. How did you capture these in particular?
So the one on the right hand side was very similar. That was a similar session to the one before. It might actually just be on the other side of that tree, and later in the afternoon when the sun was different. One thing I want to say though, photographing birds in flight, especially using Pro Capture, I love to photograph in backlit because you see on both of these the wings are translucent. They're just, you get the light filter right through those wings, so it really stands out. It makes the bird pop a lot more. And yeah, for the one on the right, I use the same thing. Tripod, Pro Capture on my app. I sit further away, and I remotely trigger it. And I was using SH1 here because very often I find as well for small birds, unless they're taking up a lot of the frame, the continuous autofocus isn't always fast enough to track them. So using manual focus around the nesting hole and then 100 frames per second, I only need the bird to kind of make a movement into where the plane of focus is, and it will get it because it has so many frames per second. And the blue tit on the left is similar. It's one of those rare times that I will use a tripod with OMSYSTEM gear because I don't need it for image stabilization or anything like that, but it's just because I spent probably an hour and I filled up an SD card in that hour photographing this blue tit, but I have it on a tripod, and even however lightweight the system is, holding still like this for a long time is quite heavy. So put it on a tripod. And here as well, I was using SH1, I think, focusing on the nesting hole. And then I'm just waiting. And these birds, once the eggs have hatched, the young are inside, these birds are going to be back and forth almost every minute, I find, for the blue tit to go back with food. And I'm just waiting. And I'm a bit careful to see the action and then fully press the shutter. It's easy to get a little bit trigger happy and then just think that you have to get it exactly when it comes. Yeah, a little bit of trial and error, and you'll get it.
Yeah, the biggest tip I think I have is just make sure you push the shutter button down, even if it's just for a split second, just to make sure. I've done it plenty of times where you think you've recorded it and you just haven't. You haven't pushed the button down. So
yeah.
Yes, yeah. But obviously, like you said earlier, you use a lot of different other types of computational modes. So we've got a few examples today, which I haven't clarified with you. So I'm hoping I've got them right because I didn't check. But
go for it.
So I'm hoping the owl is focus stacking.
No, it isn't.
No, fine. I knew I was going to get one wrong, at least.
So the owl, so this is a tawny owl, and I heard it during the day, and I found it. I was sitting in this tree, photographing a bit, and then I thought, I'm going to wait until twilight because I feel that light is just more suitable for an owl. So I came back when it was quite dark. Sure enough, it was still sitting there, and I was using high res mode because it's sitting perfectly still. Like an owl is a perfect time to use high res mode because they're very still. And what I found quite incredible, this is shot with quite a slow shutter speed as well, but I had to use an ISO of 16,000. But by using high res, there was no noise in the image. I was blown away. I was looking at the image afterwards. I didn't even need to denoise or anything. It's 16,000 ISO because high res just produced such a high quality file. So yeah. A really cool feature to use.
And I'm guessing that was handheld, so that would have been the 8 shots, right?
Yeah, handheld.
Yeah. Cool. Was the other one high res? Or have I got that wrong too?
Yeah, no, you got that wrong too.
Knew I would.
But to be fair, I think a similar shot could have been possible with high res as well because you're combining many images, you are almost like slowing time down. So I don't know it would be interesting to see the results with high res mode. But this was ND Live, so basically using that simulation effect of an ND filter. So it's in the middle of the day. It's a gannet colony. I think I was using my 12 to 40 millimeter here for more of a landscape image with the gannets on the colony. But I was seeing, like, you see all these streaks, and that's gannets flying, right? So I wanted to get all these slightly different. I'd gotten the images where I'd frozen the action of these birds. So I thought, why not try something where I'm deliberately kind of blurring out those as streaks. Those are birds flying in ND Live, and that allowed me then to use a very slow shutter speed, even in the middle of the day.
Yeah, I'd be intrigued to use something like a live comp on that, because obviously you could then set that up to shoot for hours, and obviously all the birds flying around, you get some really artistic shots. And then I've probably got this one wrong as well, but I'm hoping not. ND filters.
This is ND filter. Yeah. So it's similar thing. It was the same gannet colony, and I'm just zooming in, and the waves are just crashing below them. And I wanted to use a slow shutter speed, but it was very bright, so I used the ND filter to make it darker. Used a very slow shutter speed just to get some of that motion of the waves behind the gannets.
Yeah, and I think that's an incredible shot, because it gives you more of an idea of just how those creatures are living, right? Like if you took a static image of the water, it wouldn't kind of show the atmosphere of what they live in. So you've done totally the right thing there. So yeah, I really like that. I really do. So hopefully that gives everyone a bit of a kind of an idea to how you maybe even use some of the more creative computational modes for wildlife as well. I looking at that particular one, that's made me think of a couple of shots that I want to go and retake now, and kind of see if I can do something more creative with them.
Cool.
So hopefully everyone's got something out of the settings and techniques. Hopefully that's been worthy for everyone, and everyone's got something out of that. And hopefully, you can go out and feel a bit more comfortable to use some of the pro capture modes and what each one does and how you'd use them. So this is where I now give Espen the controller for a little while of the slides, and this is his top 5 images from 2025, and we'll crack on with the first one if it wants to work. Espen, all yours.
Thank you. So yeah, this is I do like to try and get creative, and this is in Orkney, the wader workshop we do up there, and these, we were waiting for these sanderlings, big flocks of sanderlings, are feeding on the beach, and it was getting quite dark. These sanderlings actually showed up just after the sun had gone down. It was getting very dark. But instead of then trying to freeze the action and push the ISO through the roof, I went the opposite way. I was down to really slow shutter speeds, and I was just looking for a bird that was standing still, so then I could get all the other birds kind of out of focus, and just a blurry kind of a background, because they're all feeding. They're all frantically feeding there. So I thought it was just a cool kind of way of getting a slightly different image.
Nice. I like the kind of the color tones. It's very kind of neutral, but whites and off whites with that tints of blue. Works really well. There we go. Next one.
So yeah, this is the black grouse lek. This was definitely taken with the, well, actually this would have been last year, so not the 50 to 200, but probably the 40 to 150. The black grouse came really close to my hide. And the way I have it set up, I have 3 hides that are front lit, but I can't really fit the last hide in there. So I have 3 clients coming in, they're photographing front lit, and I'm just kind of tucked away then, photographing backlit, even though the situation might not be called for, because it wasn't a clear morning. It was actually quite cloudy. But every now and then I get these amazing conditions, and here there was just this tiny little sliver of light coming through, making it really colorful. And I was really trying then to capture this bird with the beak open, as they do this kind of a jump and a hissing call, and trying to catch that within that light. So it was just kind of an interesting moment where I was really just intentional. I could see exactly, this is what I want, and then trying to get it.
It's nice. Next one.
So yeah, very often in bird photography, it's not always about the bird. It's about the environment, what you have to photograph it within. So this is a bluebell forest nearby where I live, and I go there quite often around April and May times, usually when they bloom up in Scotland. And yeah, just trying to capture a bird with using that as a background to get a bit more color into it. And I love these little wrens and the way they sometimes, like here, stand on little rusty bits of bracken from the year before, and then trying to complement what is kind of a average looking bird, I guess, like when it comes to color anyways, with some color in the background.
Yeah. What is actually the color in the background? Is it lavender or something, or do you know?
What bluebells? It's like it's blue. What would you
Okay.
call it?
Yeah, some sort of bluebell, some sort of blue purple flower, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then squirrel.
Yeah, so this was, I just got my hands on the 50 to 200 millimeter and testing it out in my local forest. And I had this really curious red squirrel come right up towards the lens. And I just loved using this lens and just seeing how, the rest of the image just fades out of focus right away using that lens. And also here, I was quite close to the squirrel. And I just love the little inquisitive look of it coming towards me.
Yeah, and again, just speaking about color, that the 5200, I don't know if you've noticed, but it seems to pick up color so differently than some of the other lenses we have, and I think it just captures green so well, and I don't know why.
Cool.
So, and then last image.
Yeah, this is actually also with the 50 to 200, photographing these cold tits. And it's like a little conifer that I have right next to me. And I just noticed how it had just been raining and then we got light. So this is a backlit image when you're photographing backlit, and you can get these tiny little raindrops and you get all these kind of out of focus balls. And that, the 50 to 200 f2.8 was just ideal for it as well. So it just created this kind of a magical scene to me. It just really, really stood out to me.
I really like this image. It kind of slightly reminds me of Christmassy sort of tones. It's quite nice.
It does, yeah.
That's great. Brilliant. Thank you for inspiring us with your images from last year. I can't wait to see some more from this year if we get a chance to do this again. So everyone, this is your chance to kind of get some questions in. I'll do some kind of the OM system updates whilst you kind of get those questions into us, and we'll get them answered. So let's talk cashbacks for a second. So we've gone into summer savings, which is one of our biggest cashbacks of the year. So as I mentioned earlier, that 150-600, that's got up to £600 cashback on it. OM1 Mark IIs up to £500 off the kit in terms of cashback. OM5 Mark IIs up to £350, and OM3s up to £250. So some really, really good savings to have. There's loads of lenses on cashback as well, so there's a little bit of everything there for everyone to get kind of stuck in with. So make sure you kind of have a look on our website. Make sure you kind of get onto your retailer websites as well, see what offers are on and about at the moment, and make sure you pick up your lens for the summer and get shooting. And then just quickly into events. To give you an idea, I am incredibly busy with events, and so is the rest of the OM team in the UK. I'm sure the American team are doing everything they can throughout the summer period as well for everyone from America and everyone else from Europe as well. But to give you an idea, we have got the WEX road shows all over the country this month. We've got Bird Fair literally next week. So all the OM team will be there. You've got some macro workshops from me in kind of LC Worcester and LC Gloucester. If you haven't come and done one of our LC kind of roadshows or workshops, basically we throw you a 90mm, a diffuser and a flash and an OM1 Mark II and show you how to focus, stack and bracket and get to most of it. So that's definitely worth joining. And then going into later on in the year, because I've already booked everything until Christmas now, so we're getting more and more out there. So we've got the Southwest LCE show. We've got Victorian Fair Lights in Worcester. We've got butterfly houses as well, and there's an awful lot more coming as well. So make sure you keep a look on the My OM System events page, because there's a lot more. In terms of a couple of online talks to talk about, we've got a special skateboard workshop review. So if you remember, we did a skateboard workshop in Bristol about a month ago now. We're doing a special OM Talks where we review some of the images from that the customers that went on to it did. To give you an idea, it was an amazing event. And yeah, we'll have everyone on there. So you'll have me and Craig and Luke, and you'll also have some people from Wex and even the owner of Shredding themselves as well, hopefully on there. So it'll be a really interesting talk to kind of show you some amazing images from that. And then we've got a really unique online talk. So the next big walkthrough is Slime Mold Edition with a guy called Glenn Elder, who has no social media following. But as you can see a little bit on the image, that is mushrooms that are 1/2 meter tall on the side of the edge of a leaf. And that, to give you an idea, is about 150 images stacked. And I still have no idea how he does it. But we are going to talk about it and kind of get his information on how he does it all. So it'd be really, really interesting. And if you're interested in that sort of thing, because it's quite a unique type of macro of how small we're talking, then please get involved in that. And then one last thing. So OM Talks. So me and Luke are doing our next OM Talks very soon. As I just said, we're doing a skateboard one as well. But we want to make sure you all get involved in our hashtag challenge. Basically, post your image on Instagram. This month, it needs to be about summer activities. So what are you doing throughout the summer? Post an image from that on Instagram, hashtag OM Talks into that. We might then even show that image then on OM Talks on the next one. And you never know, there might be a prize at the end as well. So definitely kind of get involved in that, and we'd like to see your images. So let's look at questions then. Anyone got any questions for us? I'm just going to kind of go back through the chat to see if there was anything we've missed. But if anyone else wants to bring anything in, that would be great. This is an interesting one. Again, I'm not familiar with the custom buttons.
It's a custom function button. So, okay, I'm wondering, right, so are you trying to set a button that has a specific function on C1? Yeah. So basically, you need to, whenever you go into the menu to change something in a C button, you do have to turn the dial, because if you've used a quick button to get to C1, then if you go into the menu, you're going to be kicked out of C1. So I actually don't use those quick buttons to get into C1 or C2. If I'm interpreting that correctly.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. A nice little bit of feedback if we haven't shown it already yet. The 75-300 is great. It's again a great, nice little budget lens. What else we've got? Let's go to the bottom. I think I've got some questions for you. So what would be the most difficult species that you've had to photograph of animal?
Oof. I mean, some are difficult just because you can't find them. I guess, some of the difficult ones as well are, tiny, fast birds in the middle of the woods or something like that. A gold crest can be quite difficult because they're just fluttering about all the time on these branches in the middle of a thick forest where there's often little light as well. So it can be I don't know if I can pinpoint an exact species, but it has a lot to do with the conditions that are there. You know, when something is really quick and hidden and cryptic.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use a lot of tools for finding things. You know, so I remember one bird, some of the birds in like desert environments and stuff like that. They're really cryptic. By using like a thermal binoculars, they can stand right out and really help out.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever had what I call a Walter Mitty moment, where you are set up to take a wildlife shot and you are at that point where you could take it, but you just don't? I'm guessing you've seen the film with you laughing.
Love it.
So have you ever had that moment?
I mean, I understand where it comes from. I understand the situation, but no, because if it's too good, and like if had that moment come with with the snow leopard in the scene there, there's no way I couldn't take a photo. No.
Even if it was so emotional that you've been waiting months for it, you'd still take it.
Yeah, but if you're waiting months, how could you not?
True, very, very true.
No.
So, okay, serious question for you then. What's one mistake you see wildlife photographers doing over and over?
I think it's very often maybe considering the background or the distractions in the image. You know, so it's one thing getting an animal sharp, but whenever you're approaching an animal or however you're photographing, I always try to consider, well, what's my background going to be if I approach from this angle? You know, is it going to be that twig right in the background there? Can I move a little bit here so that that twig doesn't show? So it's about making those tiny adjustments to make the other parts of the image pleasing as well. You know, and if that means, if you sometimes you might have to get down to the ground, or even like, putting the camera down using the flip out screen if you can't lie down on the ground. It's a great way so that you're not photographing down on an animal and putting the background as a ground right behind, because that's going to be quite distracting. So I think it's very often considering the other elements in the image apart from the animal.
Okay, nice. And just going back to kind of photography kit then, what's the single most important piece of advice you'd give to someone buying their first camera?
I think maybe I think this is an advice that often goes again and again, that the camera isn't always that important. I find that the lenses are more important. So if budget is of a concern, start with, you could pick up the EM1 Mark II that I started out with now, very cheap, secondhand, and put more money into a lens instead, I think.
Okay. Yep. And is there any other animals that are now on your bucket list to photograph?
Like the rest of Australia has, with all the animals here are on my bucket list. Now, as much as I love it here and I want to see a duck-billed platypus here, there's so many things I want to photograph while I'm here. But I'm also drawn to colder environments. So I think, something like penguins on the snow, or like a polar bear or something like that is pretty high up there.
Okay, that makes sense. Polar bears are up there, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so if you could spend a week photographing one animal on Earth, which one would you choose?
Ah, man, these are tricky questions.
I wasn't going to go easy on you.
1 week. There's so many. Let's go. Like, now that you put Secret Life of Walter Mitty in my head, it's a snow leopard, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So straight into the mountains then for a week for you.
Yeah, I'm quite drawn to the mountains.
And we do have a question. If you could bring one body and one lens, what would you pick for bird photography? So many variables. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if weight and size isn't an issue, yeah, the OM1 Mark II with the 150 to 400 with the built-in extender is going to be top of the line. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And quite an interesting one. Memory cards, not something we normally talk about on here, but I'd like to answer the question.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned earlier, having a fast memory card is great. I think I use quite a lot of these ones here. It's a tough one. The important part is to go for have a reading speed, which is sometimes advertised more than the writing speed, which is really annoying because it's the writing speed that really matters when it comes to photographing high frames per second, like Pro Capture. So this one here is 299, megabytes per second writing speed.
Yeah.
And what I often do, because a lot of these cameras, you have two SD card slots, I'll put a faster one in one of them, usually the first one, and I'll put maybe a slower one, a more budget SD card with more space on it in the other one. And I'll use the first one for my photography, Pro Capture, and I'll use the other one for video. But I think, as well, just by using the custom mode, you can also program in what SD card you would like to use. So if you have a custom mode for Pro Capture, you can program that and use the fast memory card if you want to use two different ones.
Cool, brilliant.
I guess SanDisk is the other one memory card that I use a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that is the end of the big walkthrough. Hopefully you've enjoyed it whilst being here and answering all the questions that everyone has. Obviously, it's a big thank you from myself to obviously Espen for joining me on this. So thank you very much. And then thank you to everyone else for being on here as well, giving us your questions, listening for almost 2 hours. Talking about wildlife photography of all things.
It's not really, it doesn't feel like a job just coming here talking about wildlife photography. So thank you so much for having me, and thank you everybody who showed up to join us.
Brilliant. So thank you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.